Some people might ask, well, why would you take a dog that needs to be muzzled out in public? And to which I would respond,
All right, guys, so we got Rudy here. Rudy is a board and train we have in right now. And one of the big issues that they sent him in for is that he's been very, very unpredictably reactive towards cats in particular. So obviously we don't have cats at our facility, so what we're doing here is we're using my cat that we have here at my house, and we're gonna run a couple of drills, just making sure that we have adequate control over him around the cat and to gauge his responses to it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring him into the area that the cat is in, and we're gonna first and foremost just kind of explore what he does when he sees the cats. Gauge kind of where he's at as a baseline with it. If there is any like reactivity or intense prey drive or anything, we'll address that first and foremost. From there, what we'll do is we will just work a couple of different like obedience related drills around the cat, just make sure we have really good control over him. So let's get started. Come on. So we're just walking him into the area. I'm gonna keep a little bit of distance initially, hang out here for a minute, wait until he kind of catches a glimpse of, obviously Turk just chilling over there. So far, so good. I'm sure that obviously he knows there's a cat there, but I think right now he's probably a little bit overwhelmed just being in a new place where, he's not acting up too much or anything. So we'll just kind of keep testing this here. Obviously, you just looked at him again. No big issues there. And again, we're just kind of getting a baseline here. Now, already this is positive because regardless of if he's just a little bit, stressed out being in a new place or whatever it may be, if you run this drill back with 9 out of 10 dogs, if the dog has really, really intense prey drive towards cats, regardless of where they're at, they're going to be reacting when they see that cat. So what it may very well be is with a lot of dogs, when the cat is stationary, there's not an issue, but when the cat moves, that's where there tends to be a problem. So we're just going to hang out here for a minute, and we're just going to let him kind of exist around the cat. And then what we'll do is we'll see if we can get a little bit of motion and see if that triggers him at all. Don't mess my couch up. So far, so good. So far, so good. again, we got a little bit of motion there and a little bit of a swat, and he handled that pretty well. Obviously fixated a little bit, but not doing anything. So all is positive so far. And this is a lot of our training as we kind of move through some of these different exercises while the dogs are in our care for a board and train, is we're getting a read off of where the dog is at as a baseline with it and what things we need to implement in order to be successful. So. So again, actively making the choice to move away from the cat as opposed to towards. Being mindful of his space, obviously. Rudy, come here. Down. Good. So next we're just going to work some obedience drills here. Make sure obviously he can keep himself under control in the presence of the cat. Good. So I'm going for your face. Good job, buddy. Looks good. Again, him running off there, keeping himself under control. And again, he's very curious, but this is normal, especially if up until this point he's rehearsed just chasing them in the house, not being given a lot of direction in the presence of them. He's not going to know what to make of these types of situations. So what we need to do is we're kind of starting from square one, where once we send him back home, there's going to be some clear directions as far as, hey, these are the types of things you need to do with him around the cats to start to develop this habit of not chasing them when they run across the room, right? Making sure he learns how to respect the cues that they're giving him of if they don't want anything to do with him, he needs to give them space, et cetera, et cetera. And by reshifting that association and that pattern, we can get to a nice safe place for everybody with this. Down. Good. I don't see any massive issues. Do they have cats?
3 cats.
And do you remember her saying, like, does she just keep them separated right now, or what?
They're on a different floor and they're baby gated off.
Okay.
He's like fixated at the baby gate. He can't relax when
Understood.
the cats are out.
So a lot of times what we'll find is that owners kind of get into this habit of, if they have, we say a lot with cats and dogs, right? They'll keep them completely separated from each other, right? So like there's not even an option for the dog to ever get to the cat. So there's this constant novelty in the dog's head of like, what the heck is that thing? Why is it constantly acting weird every time I see it and running and moving quickly and stuff? And they never have the option to, explore or check the cats out in the first place where they could even determine if there's a problem or not, right? And we know that restraint in the form of leashes, barriers, doors, windows, all that kind of stuff makes issues like 10 times worse, right? So by never allowing them to integrate with the cats in the first place, we could see almost like a 10 times more extreme version of the behavior, where if we just allow the interaction to take place in the first place and just guide their decisions appropriately as we're doing right now, that novelty will very quickly wear off and they'll get to kind of a harmonious place with things. So that's ultimately what we're going to need to do, given the fact that right now the cats have just been separated and isolated to a completely different floor, and he's not able to even get close to them in the first place to make good decisions. So basically how we're handling this right now is going to be exactly the first steps of what we do when we take him home for a send home lesson, to show the owners how to begin doing this. And then it's just going to be a repetition of just doing it once a day for 45 minutes, right? Until it starts to get calmer and calmer. And again, he knows the cat's right there. He's in a more focused state of mind, and we're shifting that attention onto us and off of the cats. And before we ever did the downstay, we made sure that we saw first and foremost when he was near the cat, what was he going to do, right? So that's kind of the process of working through this. And you know, let's say this were my brand new dog and I just adopted him, and this is my first time I ever brought him into the house. I would chill here and I'd keep him in that downstay for probably the next hour and allow the cat to get comfortable being around him and him not messing with him. And then obviously make sure we're practicing the impulse control with this guy, being in the presence of the cat. And I would just chill here for a while and then I would go put him away for a little bit, you know, and then we'd chill for a while, then I'd go put him away for a little bit. And that's kind of how I would integrate it. And I think a lot of people do this interesting thing sometimes when it comes to dogs, where they adjust everything around the dog as opposed to putting the dog into real life in a controlled way based on what they're able to tolerate. And I'll kind of explain that. So in the case of the cats, right, they probably brought him home and realized that he had a problem with the cats, and they said, you know what, we're going to adjust our home life and we're going to isolate the cats away in another room, right? As opposed to, okay, he's got a problem with the cats. I don't know which came first, if it was the cats or him, but assuming it was the cats that came first, we need to fix this problem first and foremost. The cats aren't getting isolated somewhere else, right? We're making sure that their home life is exactly what we want it to be ultimately, and we're going to integrate him in ways that he's able to. So maybe we start isolating him and bringing him into the real life home environment in controlled bursts, as opposed to the other way around like we're doing with the cats, until he starts proving himself and kind of earning his privileges out and about. And that's what I would do in this situation. Again, you know, Turk lives here. He's lived here forever, obviously. This is the new guy right now. So let's say I was only able to have him out for an hour at a time doing this. I would be putting him away at the end of this session and then bringing him back into the real life home environment, and working in that order with things. And again, that's going to be something else we're going to be coaching the owner through, given that he had some issues with the cats, obviously. He had issues with strangers and guests and stuff, right? We're not adjusting what everybody else is doing. We're adjusting him, and we're setting him up for success by putting him into these scenarios in a very controlled way where we could stack wins. So, but this is great.
I think they said she's like 7 months old.
We're here with Rudy. I don't know why I said that intro like that. Hey guys, I'm here with Rudy today, and we are doing a socialization with him and assessing how he does around other dogs. And we've done quite a few socials with him to kind of gauge where he's at. I know his owners were a little bit concerned with some past incidents he had around other dogs where he was very forward and they felt like he may be dog aggressive. As you can see here, he's pretty interested in sniffing around, interacting with other dogs, and as you saw earlier in the clips, just a little bit of playing, and he's doing really well. Hey guys, it's me and Rudy, and Rudy is one of our board and trains, and we're doing a little socialization with him right now. He originally came to us to work through some issues with other dogs. I know his owners had struggled, seeing him have a couple incidents in situation where he was on leash and other dogs approached him that were strangers. We're here to kind of assess how he does with other dogs, his comfortability around other dogs, and as you can see, he's moving around quite a bit, smelling, playing a little bit, which are all really good signs and not inherently aggressive or not seeing things that are concerning in our social. Because we do socialization in such a careful way and we have a good routine about it, we are able to see dogs who have not previously had success in socialization really shine and open up and just be better dogs. I was talking to Rudy's owner a little bit recently, and she had shared with me that she had an experience where he was running around in a field and other dogs came over, and I believe the situation was just he somehow got away from her and the other dog was very forward and he began to attack the other dog. They got into a little scuffle, whatever it may be. And although those issues are really concerning and can lead us to believe that we have an aggressive dog, it was likely just the situation that he was in. So again, we really like to prioritize healthy social situations to help dogs thrive in situations where they have to be around other dogs and not put them in positions where they're able to rehearse bad behaviors and bad socials with other dogs. A lot of the times with issues like dog reactivity or instances where dogs have issues within strangers' dogs or dog parks or things like that, we can mislabel the dog as being aggressive when in reality the situation that we put them in just wasn't conducive to a healthy social setting, and our dogs can kind of lose trust and lose ability to depend on us. So as we remove things like leashes, barriers, and we're setting them up, socializing them with dogs that we fairly know are social and going to be respectful, we can see a lot of success and them open up a lot more, as Rudy's doing right now. So a big rule of thumb is that we want to make sure socializations are with dogs that we kind of know, whether that's a neighbor's dog, a friend's dog, and it's not a complete stranger. We're not taking our dog into dog park settings. Even if people say that their dogs are friendly, it's really hard to assess how well people know the temperaments of their dogs, and it's just best to keep socialization simple, short, and productive for dogs so we can build on their successes. Me and Rudy are here enjoying a cup of hot chocolate in the store right now. So we brought Rudy to Crocker Park to kind of work on some exposure. This dog has come from being very nervous and very fearful of strangers and people in his house. So we're using a lot of our precautions by starting off with the muzzle as we're assessing how he interacts with like people walking by, people coming a little bit closer to him. And it allows us a safe space to really monitor what it is he needs and how we can best support him while staying nice and safe, being able to take him out in situations that are newer or unfamiliar to him. And as you can see, he's a little bit nervous. He's looking around here, but for the most part, he's following through with the commands. He's doing really well. He's just kind of curious about everything that's going on. Some people may ask, why would you bring a dog that needs muzzled out into public? Why would you put him in these situations? And it's an easy answer. We're trying to get him to be more comfortable in situations that are unpredictable or unfamiliar. As his owners do have people over, they want to go out with him, they want to be able to experience a full life with him. And just because a dog needs muzzled, because they may be in a little bit of an unpredictable situation or they may be unpredictable themselves, doesn't mean that we should avoid all triggers or all situations that could lead to them having a reaction. So right now we're just kind of chilling here, seeing how he assesses the environment, people walking by, the store setting, and we're going to go from there. Good job, buddy. One part of the board and train program that we really pride ourselves on as a company is getting our dogs out into the world. And maybe I don't know what that was. One of the things that we pride ourselves on as a company is applying our training to real life situations that aren't just going to be tailored to our facility, because if we only worked in our facility for his 4 weeks, he'd never really get this exposure and we could never see holes in his training or what he may need to work on. So as we're sitting here, he's not doing anything wrong. He's in his downstay. He's being a very good boy. He's just a little bit nervous. So it's definitely something that we'd want to work on building his confidence with as we progress through his training. We have him in a down right now because it allows us to give one expectation. So he's a very nervous dog, and he generally displays that through pacing or trying to bolt away, especially if something unfamiliar and scary happens. Somebody just wheeled a cart by, there's people walking by, and this allows us to really refine one thing that he can be good at and one expectation that we can expect of him. And he very clearly understands that, and he can have an easy time being like, okay, I know what they want from me, and I'm just going to chill out here for a minute. Generally, when we get a board and train, they are in a they're uprooted, their lives are completely uprooted, they're in a new setting with new people that they've never experienced with. Okay. Generally, when we get board and trains in, they're completely uprooted from their past lives, making it difficult for us to really see the true extent of their behaviors. Sometimes we very much see it right away. Other times, what the owners have described of Rudy is not the dog that we're seeing now, and that can be a little concerning to owners that we're not seeing the behavior that they've struggled with. But he's in a completely new situation, so he is kind of overstimulated, overwhelmed as he's adjusting to our new rules and things. When we do go to send him home, we're going to be sure to get the owners on board, working with him, and do a lot of work in the home because that needs to transfer to whether we're in a public space like this or we're chilling at home. We need to have a dog that is able to demonstrate good manners and stop behaviors that we don't want to see. Do you want to smell? I think it has like a nice note of, like it smells like a cruise ship. Have you ever been on a cruise before? They're pretty nice. You should probably go. So we allow ourselves time to assess what he's like in these tight corridors or tight spaces as we're walking around a bunch of people. And I want to see and gain trust with him that his reactions are not to lunge at people. We just had somebody asked if they could take a photo of him, and she got rather close to him. And in that moment, instead of finding myself having to overcorrect him or overcompensate for my lack of confidence in knowing this dog, the muzzle allows us to just kind of assess and take a step back where I can give very minimal rules and expectations to him as to not overwhelm him in the situation. And eventually, here in a moment, as we're doing some more walking, I'm probably going to take the muzzle off because I feel a little bit more comfortable and confident with his reactions at this stage. So the muzzle can be a great tool to start, and you can leave it on your first couple trips if you'd like to, if that makes you feel most confident. But at some point, I just want to test to see how does he react without his muzzle on. So Rudy has done training in the past with other companies in the area, and the trainer had realized and recognized that she didn't feel comfortable or confident handling him in the setting. She really had mentioned that she could not get him to engage with her. And at this point, if I were trying to feed him treats and he were not listening to me, I'd be trying to force a positive experience that he is just not in a state that he wants to take food right now. So I don't care that he's looking at me or making eye contact. And it can be initially difficult for some trainers to see that he's a little bit nervous, he's not taking food, and we may read that as he's very uncomfortable. But again, when an animal is in a state of arousal, they're not generally going to want to take a lot of food. So we have to be able to work without food and still set those expectations. You're in a downstay, we're calm, we're watching everything go on without needing to use food as a crutch to have him to listen to us or engage with us. All right, now, as you can see, we have taken the muzzle off. We're in a little bit of a less congested area. And not that I think that he was doing anything wrong to need the muzzle. It was just an added safety bonus, kind of like the training wheels. And now that we're kind of in a more open spot, we decided to take the muzzle off. And we're just going to continue our session as normal. And if he displays any inappropriate behaviors, obviously we'll correct him and help him just chill out.